Outside, the mountain is disappearing under snow. But in here, the stove is warm and you are already safe. If a slow night like this is what you needed, a quiet like helps this find its way to someone else who needs it too. And if you're settling in, leave a comment and tell me where in the world you're listening from tonight. It's nice to know who's out there in the dark with me. Before we begin, dim the lights, get comfortable, and let everything else wait until morning. The snow has been falling since before you noticed it starting. That's how it works up here. No announcement, no first dramatic flake. Just a quiet thickening of the air outside the window, until you look up from the fire and realize the whole world has gone soft and white. The cabin holds the cold at a distance tonight. You can feel it pressing against the windows, patient, but it doesn't get past the old wood stove in the corner, ticking and creaking as it works. The glass fogs a little at the edges. Beyond it, the pines stand heavy and slow, their branches bowing under white shoulders they didn't ask for. You're settled into the armchair nearest the fire, the one with the cushion gone slightly flat in the middle from years of exactly this. A blanket, thick and the color of oatmeal, is pulled up over your knees. Your socks are thick wool, a little too big, bunching at the toes in a way that feels less like a flaw and more like an old friend's habit. There's a mug on the side table, and steam still rises from it in a thin, unhurried curl. Cinnamon and something darker underneath. Cloves, maybe, or the last of the good cocoa you found at the back of the cupboard. You wrap both hands around it without lifting it yet, just letting the warmth soak into your palms. Outside, the wind picks up for a moment, rattling something loose on the porch. A chair, maybe, or the old wind chime nobody's taken down in years. It's not an alarming sound. It's the sound of a house settling into a long night the way you settle into a chair. The fire pops once, sending a small orange spark up against the blackened brick, and you watch it die out before it even reaches the flue. There's something satisfying about that. A tiny, contained little event, over before it could ask anything of you. You notice, without really trying to notice, how the light in the room moves. Firelight doesn't sit still the way a lamp does. It leans one way, then another, drawing the shadow of the chair leg longer, then shorter, across the wide plank floor. Somewhere under all that shifting light, the room feels less like four walls and more like the inside of something breathing slowly. The wind gusts again outside, sharper this time, flinging a spray of fine snow against the glass with a sound like sand. You glance toward the window, half expecting to see something there, though of course there's only white, and your own reflection, softened by the fog on the glass, looking back at you looking out. You lift the mug at last. It's cooled just enough at the rim to drink without burning your lip, and the first sip settles somewhere low and warm, right under your sternum, spreading outward slowly, like the fire's heat does through the room. The stove ticks again as the wood inside shifts, resettles, keeps burning. Outside, the snow keeps coming down, steady, unbothered, in no rush to finish. Inside, you're not in any rush either. There's nowhere the evening needs to go from here. Just the fire, and the mug going cool by degrees, and the long, white hush pressing gently at the windows, asking for nothing at all. The fire has burned down to a low, steady glow, and you decide it's time to make the bread you promised yourself you'd make when you first saw the flour sack tucked in the cupboard. The kitchen counter is cool under your palms, dusted pale with flour that catches the lamplight like a fine snow of its own. You measure by feel more than by any recipe. A cup of this, a pinch of that, the wooden spoon knocking softly against the bowl's rim, a sound so small it barely rises above the hiss of the stove behind you. Your sleeves are pushed to the elbow. The dough is shaggy at first, stubborn, sticking in clumps to your knuckles. Then it turns. Somewhere between the fifth and sixth fold, it stops fighting you and starts to come together, smooth and slightly warm from the friction of your hands. There's something satisfying in that. A mess resolving itself into something whole, just from patience and repetition. Outside, the wind leans against the cabin's corner posts, and the whole structure gives the faintest creak in answer, like an old chair shifting its weight. You've learned this sound over the past few hours. It isn't a warning. It's just the cabin settling deeper into the snow, the way you settle deeper into a chair. You shape the dough into a round loaf and set it in the bowl to rise, covering it with a damp cloth still faintly warm from the kettle. There's a question hanging over it now, small and low stakes. Will it have time to rise before you're too tired to bake it? The stove has enough wood for another hour, maybe 2. That should be plenty. While you wait, you wipe the flour from the counter in slow circles, and the cloth catches on a groove worn into the wood. Some other hand, some other winter, doing exactly this. You wonder, briefly and without needing an answer, how many loaves this counter has seen. The window above the sink has fogged at the edges, and you clear a small circle with the side of your fist. The glass is shockingly cold against your skin for just a second. Beyond it, the snow keeps falling in that same unhurried way, catching what little light spills out from the kitchen, then disappearing into the dark past its reach. You check the dough after a while, lifting the cloth just enough to peek. Not yet. Still dense, still cool to the touch. You let the cloth fall back into place and busy your hands with washing the bowl instead, the water from the kettle-warmed basin pleasant against fingers gone slightly stiff from the cold air near the window. By the time you check again, it has domed up nicely under the cloth, soft and yielding when you press a fingertip to its surface, the little indentations slowly filling back in. Good. There's time yet before the fire needs feeding again. Time enough to shape it properly, slide it into the oven, and let the whole cabin fill with that smell only baking bread can make. Something like comfort translated directly into scent. You set the loaf in and close the oven door with a soft clank. Then wipe your hands on the towel hanging from the stove's iron rail. For a moment, you just stand there, listening to the wind, the fire, the quiet tick of the oven warming further, and none of it asks anything of you at all. The bread is done now, cooling on its wire rack, and the kitchen has gone quiet, in that particular way a room does after it's been busy. You leave it there and wander toward the far side of the cabin, where the window seat waits under its stack of cushions. The glass is cold against your palm when you press it there, just to feel the difference. Outside, the snow keeps falling, but slower now, fatter flakes drifting instead of rushing. The wind has eased into something more like breathing than howling. You climb onto the window seat with a blanket dragged along behind you, the one with the frayed edge you've always meant to fix and never do. It smells faintly of cedar, from the chest it lives in. You tuck it around your knees and lean your shoulder against the wooden frame, and the whole world outside becomes a kind of slow, silent television, snow falling past the porch light in lazy spirals. There's a particular pleasure in watching weather you don't have to walk through. You know this. Somewhere, out past the tree line, the wind is doing something fierce to the upper branches. You can hear it, a distant creak and hush. But here, wrapped in wool, with a wall of logs between you and all that cold, it sounds almost like music, like the mountain clearing its throat. A log shifts in the stove behind you, settling with a soft collapse, and sends a little orange glow flickering across the ceiling. You don't turn to look. You already know what it looks like. You've watched that particular flicker for hours now, and it's become as familiar as a face. The cabin ticks and creaks around you, wood contracting in the cold, pipes murmuring somewhere under the floor. None of it is alarming. It's just the house, talking quietly to itself, the way old houses do when everyone else has gone still. You find yourself listening for the rhythm of it. Creak, pause, murmur, silence. The way you might listen to someone else's slow breathing in the dark. Out in the snow, something moves. You catch it from the corner of your eye. A shape crossing the yard, low and quick. A fox, maybe, or just a trick of shadow and falling snow. It's gone before you can be sure, leaving only a faint depression in the white that the snow is already filling back in, erasing the evidence politely, like it never happened at all. You pull the blanket higher until it reaches your chin and rest your temple against the cool glass. Your breath fogs a small circle there, blooming and shrinking, keeping its own quiet time. There's a hot water bottle somewhere near your feet, wrapped in a knitted cover gone soft with age, and you nudge it with your toes until it settles against your ankle, warm all the way through the wool. Small comforts, stacked one on top of another, until the whole evening feels like something you built on purpose, log by log, blanket by blanket. The snow doesn't seem to be slowing down or speeding up. It simply continues, patient, endless, indifferent to whether you watch it or not. You find you don't mind being the only witness tonight. Out here in the one lit window on a mountain gone dark and white and silent, holding your small warm corner of it against the glass. The kitchen is smaller than the rest of the cabin, tucked behind the staircase, and at this hour it holds a different kind of quiet. Not the hush of the window seat, but something closer, warmer. The stove light glows faint orange above the burner. It's the only light you've bothered to turn on. You came in for tea, though really you came in for the ritual of it. The kettle sits on the back burner, already ticking as it heats, and you lean against the counter with your arms crossed loosely, waiting without impatience. There's a particular pleasure in a task with no urgency behind it. The mug you chose is the chipped one, cream-colored, with a faded painting of pine cones circling the rim. It doesn't match anything else in the cupboard. You picked it anyway. Some mugs just feel like they belong to a snowed-in night, and this one has the right kind of weight in your hand. Solid, a little too big, the kind that warms your palms all the way through once it's full. Outside the small kitchen window, the snow keeps at its quiet work. You can't see much from here, just a slice of white and the black shape of a pine bough sagging under its load. Now and then, a soft thump sounds against the glass. Snow sliding free, resettling somewhere below. It's not loud enough to startle you, just enough to notice. The kettle begins its slow climb toward a whistle, a low hum first, rising by degrees. You reach for the tin of tea on the shelf, the metal lid sticking slightly the way it always does, and pry it open with a soft pop. The smell that lifts out is dry and floral, chamomile mixed with something like dried orange peel. You spoon it into the mug without measuring. Tonight isn't a night for precision. There's a stretch of waiting now, that particular kitchen waiting, where you find small things to do so the minutes pass without feeling long. You wipe a ring of water off the counter with your sleeve. You straighten a dish towel that didn't really need straightening. Somewhere above you, a floorboard settles with a creak, the house shifting slightly under the cold, and you glance up out of habit, though you already know it's nothing. Old houses talk to themselves at night. You've stopped needing them to explain themselves. The whistle finally breaks, thin and rising, and you lift the kettle off before it can climb any louder. Steam curls up in a soft column as you pour, filling the kitchen with that particular scent of hot water meeting dry petals, and you watch the tea bloom slowly into the water, clouds of pale gold spreading from the little metal ball you've dropped in. You wrap both hands around the mug once it's full, even though it's still too hot to drink. That's part of it too, holding it before you can sip it, feeling the heat travel up through your fingers, into your wrists, like something is being handed back to you that the cold outside had been quietly borrowing all evening. You linger there a moment longer, mug in hand, listening to the stove tick as it cools, before you turn back toward the hallway and the glow of the fire waiting in the next room. The mug is warm in your hands as you step out of the kitchen, and the cabin creaks once beneath your feet, the way old wood does when it settles into cold. You follow the sound of the fire back into the main room, where the light moves orange and low across the floorboards. There's a chair near the hearth that has become, without much discussion, yours. Deep seat, worn armrests, a faded cushion that has learned the shape of you over the last few hours. You lower yourself into it slowly, careful with the tea, careful with the stillness you don't want to disturb. Outside, the wind has changed its pitch, not louder, just different. A thinner sound, threading through the gap under the window frame, like the house is humming something under its breath. You glance toward the window, though there's nothing to see, just black glass and the ghost of your own reflection, softened by the fire behind you. The snow keeps falling somewhere out there, silent and unbothered, piling itself higher against the door you'll have to nudge open tomorrow. But tomorrow is far away right now. Tonight is this chair, this blanket pulled loose across your knees, this mug cooling by careful degrees. You take a sip, still hot enough to warm your tongue, not hot enough to burn. Chamomile, a little honey, the faint bitterness underneath that means the tea steeped just slightly too long, which tonight feels less like a mistake and more like a detail worth keeping. The fire pops, sends up a small orange breath of sparks that die before they reach the screen. You watch them go, the way you'd watch fish in a tank, half attention, no urgency, just the pleasure of something moving in an otherwise still room. There's a particular kind of quiet that only happens in houses cut off from the world for a night. No cars, no distant voices, no hum of anything electric except the small tick of the space heater in the corner, working through its private rhythm. You notice, for the first time all evening, how heavy your shoulders have become. Not heavy like tired, heavy like unclenched. Like something you'd been holding since morning has finally been given somewhere to go. The blanket smells like cedar, like the inside of the closet it came from, a little like wood smoke already, though it's only been near the fire an hour. You pull it higher, over one shoulder, and tuck your feet beneath you the way you did as a kid on the couch, when furniture was something you could disappear into rather than sit properly upon. The tea is at that perfect middle point now, the temperature where you stop thinking about it entirely, where drinking it becomes as automatic as breathing. You take another sip without looking down, eyes still on the fire, watching a log shift and resettle with a soft, private collapse, embers scattering underneath like something exhaling. You think, briefly, about the people who built this place. Whether they sat in this exact spot, decades ago, in a chair that came before this chair, listening to a version of this same wind test the same corner of roof. Probably. Houses like this keep their winters. Layer them, one on top of another, until every storm feels a little bit like every other storm that came before it. The mug rests now against your knee, tilted just enough that the steam curls sideways instead of up. You don't move to fix it. There's no rush here. The fire isn't going anywhere. The snow isn't finished falling, and you, for the next stretch of this long, quiet night, are exactly where you're meant to be. The bookshelf sits in the corner of the cabin, the one you never quite finish looking at. Its shelves lean very slightly, worn soft by decades of damp winters and dry summers, and the wood smells faintly of pine resin and old paper. You run a finger along the spines, unhurried. Some titles have faded so much they're only a suggestion of letters now, ghosts of words pressed into cloth covers. Others are new enough to still have that stiff, papery smell when you open them. There's a particular book you're looking for, not urgently. You're not even sure it's the one you want yet. Just a shape you remember, a color of spine, Somewhere in the middle shelf, where the wood dips a little from age, your fingers stop on a green one. Cracked leather, gold lettering worn to a whisper. You slide it out, and a small puff of dust catches the lamplight, drifting slow, weightless. It smells like a different decade in here. Cedar and something like vanilla, the way old paper ages. You carry it back to the armchair, settle into the same warm dent you left in the cushion. The fire's still going, quieter now, embers breathing orange and low. Outside, the wind hasn't stopped, but it's found a rhythm you've almost stopped noticing. A low hush against the window pane, steady as breathing. You open the book carefully. The spine cracks once, softly, like it's clearing its throat after a long sleep. The pages are the color of weak tea, edges gone soft and rounded from years of thumbs turning them. Someone, long before you, folded down a corner on page 40. You wonder who. You wonder what stopped them there. You don't read it, not really, not tonight. Tonight it's enough to hold it, to feel the weight of it settle in your lap, solid and known. Your eyes drift over a paragraph without quite landing on the words. That's fine. Some books are for reading. Tonight, this one is just for holding. The tea beside you has gone lukewarm, forgotten in the pull of dust and paper and quiet. You take a sip anyway. It's still good, softer now, less sharp, more like a memory of chamomile than the thing itself. A log shifts in the fireplace, sends up a small string of sparks that vanish before they land. You look up at the sound, then back down at the book, at the folded corner, at the gold letters gone the color of dull brass. Somewhere outside, snow keeps falling on snow, silent, endless, patient. In here, the only sound is the fire, the wind's steady hush, and the occasional whisper of a page turning slower than it needs to. You could read for hours. You could read for 5 more minutes. Either way, you think, closing your eyes for just a moment, the book will still be here tomorrow. Some things don't need to be finished tonight. The book stays open on your lap, but your eyes have drifted from the page to the window. Snow keeps falling out there, steady, unhurried, catching the porch light in slow drifts before it settles on the sill. You get up, just to look closer. The floor is warm near the fire and cooler by the glass, and you feel the change move up through your socks with each step. Your breath fogs the pain, just slightly, and you wipe it clear with the side of your hand. Beyond the glass, the world has gone soft. The tree line is a smudge of gray-blue. The path you walked in on this afternoon is gone now, erased under hours of quiet snowfall, as if the cabin had decided to keep you a little longer and tidied away the evidence. A gust presses against the window, and somewhere behind you a log shifts in the fireplace, settling into itself with a small collapse of sparks. You don't turn around right away. There's something satisfying about watching weather you don't have to be in. Your reflection hovers faintly over the falling snow, translucent, half you and half winter. You notice the kettle is still on the side table, cooling slowly, a thin curl of steam rising less and less with each minute. It doesn't seem urgent. Nothing here does. You press your palm flat against the glass, just for a second. Feel the cold seep through immediately, sharp and clean, and pull back with a small huff of surprise, a laugh more felt than heard. It's colder than it looks. The contrast makes the room behind you feel even warmer when you finally turn back into it. Firelight caught in the corners, the old book waiting open on the chair, its pages slightly curled from age and steam, and years of hands like yours turning them slowly. You glance once more at the drifts building along the porch rail, at the way the snow seems to glow faintly blue in the dark, lit from somewhere above by a moon you can't quite see through the clouds. It's the kind of snow that makes the world feel hushed, like even sound has decided to slow down for the night. A draft slips in from somewhere, the frame maybe, or an old gap in the sill, and you feel it graze your ankle, cool and thin, gone as quickly as it came. You step back from the window, and the warmth of the room folds around you again, immediate and generous. You sit back down, pull the blanket higher over your knees, and pick the book up again, though you don't quite find your place. It doesn't matter. The window is right there if you want it. The fire is right here if you don't. And outside, the snow just keeps arriving. One quiet flake settling after another. No rush, no sound, no reason to look away unless you want to. The cabin holds its heat the way a good pot holds soup. Patient, even, unwilling to let go of it too fast. You notice this now because you've moved again, away from the armchair, toward the little kitchen at the back where a kettle waits on a cold stove. Your socked feet find the rug first, then the cool wood beyond it, and the change in temperature travels up through your soles like a small, quiet fact. Nothing alarming, just the floor being honest about the night outside. The kitchen is smaller than it looks in daylight, a single shelf, a window over the sink, black now, snow ticking faintly against it. You strike a match for the stove, and the flame catches with a soft huff of blue, and for a moment the whole room smells of sulfur and old iron before it settles into something warmer. There's a tin of cocoa on the shelf, half used, the lid slightly dented, like it's been opened by cold hands more than once. You spoon it into a mug, one spoon, then a second, because tonight asks for a little more than usual, and you listen to the kettle begin its slow complaint, the low ticking hum before the sound has a name. Outside, the wind leans against the corner of the cabin, testing it, the way it's tested it for maybe 100 winters before this one. The cabin doesn't answer, it just holds. While you wait, you press a palm flat against the window glass, just briefly, just to feel how far the cold reaches before your own warmth pushes back. It reaches further than you expect. You pull your hand away and tuck it under your other arm, and somewhere behind you, the kettle shifts from hum to whistle, thin and rising, and you cross the small kitchen to lift it before it wakes the whole quiet house, though there's no one here to wake but you, and maybe that's funny, in a small, soft way. You smile at that anyway. The cocoa goes dark and slow into the mug, a thread of steam lifting off it straight and then curling sideways when it meets the draft from the window. You wrap both hands around the mug the second it's full, not waiting for it to cool, letting the heat sting pleasantly against your palms. Walking back, the mug leaves a faint ring of warmth against your chest where you hold it close, and the fire in the next room glows a little brighter now, or maybe your eyes have just adjusted, coming from the dimmer kitchen back into this orange hush. You settle into the armchair again, the leather sighing slightly under you, familiar now in a way it wasn't at the start of the evening. The first sip is too hot, and you know it will be, and you take it anyway, because some small impatiences are worth the little price they ask. The snow keeps its own hours outside. It doesn't care what time your body thinks it is. And for a while, there's only the fire ticking low in its grate, the cocoa cooling by careful degrees in your hands, and the sense, comfortable, unhurried, that nothing in this cabin needs you to do anything else tonight. The cocoa mug sits empty on the little side table now, and you don't move to refill it. Some kind of quiet has settled into the room, thicker than before, and you find yourself listening to it the way you'd listen to music. Somewhere above you, the roof creaks once, softly, the way old wood does when the cold presses down on it. Not a worrying sound, just the cabin shifting its weight, the way you might shift yours in a chair. You get up, slowly, and cross to the window on the far wall, the one that faces the slope instead of the trees. Your socked feet know this floor now, which boards are cool, which ones hold a little warmth left over from the fire. The glass is fogged at the edges, and you wipe a small circle clear with the side of your hand. Outside, the snow has stopped falling, or at least it seems that way. What's left is only the world holding still. The slope runs pale and blue-gray down toward where the trees start, and there's a moon somewhere behind the clouds, enough to give everything a low, silvery glow without ever showing itself directly. You've never seen snow look quite like that before, like it's lit from underneath. Your breath fogs the glass again almost right away, undoing your circle, and you let it. There's no rush to see anything in particular. It's less about looking at the view and more about standing near it, the cold radiating faintly off the window and onto the backs of your hands, a small reminder of how warm the rest of the room is by comparison. You press one palm flat to the glass, just to feel it. That particular kind of cold that isn't unpleasant, just clear, definite, the opposite of the fire at your back. Two temperatures in the same body at once. It's oddly grounding, feeling both at the same time. A little further down the slope, you notice the shape of your own footprints from earlier, half filled now with new snow, softened at the edges like a photograph left out in the rain. It's strange to think that a few hours ago you were out there, in boots, breath clouding harder, cheeks stinging. And now this. Glass, warmth, a mug going cold on the table behind you. The whole outside world reduced to something you can hold in one small cleared circle of window. You stay a while longer, not thinking about much. The kind of not thinking that isn't emptiness, just spaciousness. Your mind wandering to nothing in particular. The shape of a cloud, whether foxes come this close to the cabin, whether the woodpile will need restocking tomorrow, and then to nothing again, easily, like changing the subject with yourself and not minding. Behind you, the fire pops once, low, and you feel it more than hear it, a small vibration in the floorboards under your feet. It's enough to pull you back into the room. You give the window one last look, one last press of your palm to feel the cold hold steady, and then you step away. The walk back to the armchair feels shorter than the walk to the window did, the way return trips always do. You settle back into the cushion, pull the blanket up over your knees again, and feel the warmth of the fire find you almost immediately, patient, like it had been waiting. Outside, the snow keeps its silence. Inside, you keep yours too, for a little while longer. Just listening to the low complaint of the fire and the settling of an old house that has clearly done this before, many winters, and doesn't seem worried now. There's a shelf near the window you haven't looked at properly until now. Low, wooden, a little uneven, the kind of shelf someone built by hand and never quite leveled. It holds a small stack of books, their spines soft with age, and you find yourself crouching in front of it, one knee on the cold floor, curious in that unhurried way that only happens when there's nowhere else to be. The books are mismatched. A field guide to birds, its cover cracked at the corner. A tide chart for a coastline hundreds of miles from here, which makes you smile, wondering how it ended up in a mountain cabin at all. A few paperbacks, swollen slightly from some old dampness, pages wavy like they dried near a fire, much like this one. You pull one out at random. The spine cracks softly, a small sound, dry and papery, and a little cloud of dust catches the lamplight before settling. The title is worn almost smooth, but you can still make out the shape of the letters if you tilt it toward the flame. Someone's name is written on the inside cover, in pencil, faded to a whisper of graphite. Not your name, not anyone you know. Just a stranger who sat somewhere once and pressed a pencil to this same page. There's a comfort in that you didn't expect. This cabin has held other people, other quiet nights. Other hands turning these same pages while snow did more or less exactly what it's doing now outside the window. You don't read it, not really. You flip through instead, letting your thumb ride the edge of the pages, feeling the little breeze it makes against your knuckles. Here and there a paragraph catches your eye. A sentence about weather. A line of dialogue that makes no sense out of context, but still lands soft, like a note passed between strangers. You're not trying to follow a story. You're just visiting one, briefly, the way you might glance into a lit window while walking past a house at night. The fire pops behind you, and you glance back instinctively, though nothing's wrong. Just a log settling, finding a more comfortable way to burn. The light shifts across the room, and for a moment the shelf, the window, your own knees are all washed gold, then back to their ordinary color. You set the book down, not back in its exact spot, just resting on top of the small stack, spine up, like it's taking a short rest before returning to its place. Maybe someone else will pick it up someday. Maybe it'll sit untouched for another decade. Either way feels fine. Your knee has gone a little stiff from crouching, and you shift, sitting back properly onto the floor, then deciding the rug is comfortable enough that you don't need to get up yet. The window above you has fogged again at the edges, and through the clear center, the snow keeps arriving, unbothered, endless, soft. You could stay just like this a while. Knees loose, back against the warm leg of the armchair, a stranger's old book resting nearby like something borrowed and about to be returned. Nothing here is asking anything of you. Not the fire, not the snow, not the quiet. Just this small, dim room, holding you the way it's probably held so many others before. The paperback rests face down on the rug now, forgotten again, its cracked spine catching a little firelight. You've moved to the window instead, drawn by the particular quality of silence that only comes with snow this deep. Not silence exactly, a hush, the kind that seems to press gently against the glass from outside. You lean closer, and your breath fogs a small circle on the cold pane. Through the clear parts around it, the world outside is blue-gray and soft-edged, snow still falling but slower now, fewer flakes, each one taking its time to find the ground. The porch light throws a cone of gold into all that blue, and inside the cone, the snow looks almost lazy, drifting sideways, changing its mind, drifting back. Somewhere under the porch, an icicle lets go and taps once against the railing. That's all. One small sound in an evening made of hardly any. You wipe the fog away with the side of your fist, and for a few seconds you can see further, the shape of the woodpile under its white cap, the fence posts reduced to soft, round knobs, the tree line beyond blurred into something more suggested than seen. It's strange how a familiar view can turn into something else entirely, just by being buried. The cold radiates faintly off the glass, a thin curtain of chill you can feel on your face without quite touching it. Behind you, the fire keeps its own low conversation, a tick and settle of wood, a soft exhale of sparks up the flue. The two temperatures meet somewhere around your shoulders, warm at your back, cool at your front, and you stay right there in the middle of it, unwilling to give up either one. Your own reflection hovers faintly in the glass, laid over the snow like a second, quieter version of the view. You watch it for a moment without really thinking about it, the way you might watch a candle flame, not examining, just noticing that it's there. A gust moves through, low and unhurried, and the snow briefly thickens, comes down harder for a few seconds, then eases back into its slow drift. The porch light flickers, or maybe it's just the snow passing in front of it. You can't quite tell, and you find you don't need to. You think, not for the first time tonight, that there's a particular kind of comfort in weather like this. Not the comfort of it being pleasant, it isn't, not out there, but the comfort of it being total. Nothing half-hearted about a snow like this. It commits. It covers everything evenly, without exception, and there's something in that thoroughness that settles you, the same way a fully drawn curtain settles a room more than one left an inch open. You press your palm flat against the window, just briefly, just to feel how far apart your world and that one really are. Cold seeps in immediately, sharp and clean, gone the moment you pull your hand back into the warmth of your sleeve. The icicle under the porch lets go again, another soft tap against the railing, and somewhere behind you the fire shifts, a log settling deeper into the coals with a low collapsing sigh. You stay at the window a little longer, watching the slow fall, feeling the good, ordinary luck of being the one indoors tonight, in the warm half of all that quiet. The fire has settled into embers now, that low orange glow that asks for nothing, gives off just enough warmth to matter. You've pulled the armchair closer, though you don't quite remember doing it. Just a small shift, sometime between one thought and the next. Your socks are the thick wool kind, a little too big, bunching at the toes. Someone left them folded on the arm of the chair earlier, and you didn't ask whose they were. They're warm. That's enough reason to wear them. The cabin ticks and settles around you, the particular sound of old wood cooling, contracting, finding its shape again after a day of heat. It isn't unsettling. It's more like the house exhaling. Somewhere under the floor, a pipe knocks twice and goes still. You notice how heavy your hands have become in your lap. Not tired exactly, just done. Done reaching, done holding things. They rest, palms up, like they've set something down. The snow outside has stopped making any sound against the window. Maybe it's stopped falling. Maybe it's just falling slower, softer. The kind of snow that doesn't announce itself anymore. You don't get up to check. Some things are nicer left as a guess. There's a book somewhere near your knee, spine cracked open to a page you stopped reading a while ago. You're not going to pick it back up tonight. That's fine too. Not every page needs finishing before the day is allowed to end. The last of the tea has gone lukewarm in its cup, and you find you don't mind. It's not for drinking anymore. It's just something warm to wrap a hand around, if a hand happens to want that. Your breathing has slowed to match the room somehow, long and unhurried, the kind of breathing you don't decide to do. It just arrives, once everything else is quieted enough to let it. The embers shift once, settle lower, and a thin curl of heat drifts up and then is gone. You watch it without watching, the way you watch a thought pass. The way you watch the last of something fade because fading is what it was always going to do. There's nowhere in this cabin that's cold anymore. Even the far corners have gone soft with the day's leftover warmth. Even the window, which was so sharp and blue-white an hour ago, has dimmed to something gentler, frost gathering slow and quiet at its lowest corner. You think, distantly, that this is what a day is for, not the doing of it, this part. The part where it lets go of you, and you let go of it, and neither one puts up much of a fight. The chair holds you the way a chair holds someone who isn't going anywhere. Not tonight. Not for a good while yet. The blanket has slipped a little from your shoulder, and you notice it the way you notice most things now. Slowly, without much urgency. One hand finds the edge of it and draws it back up. And that small effort is enough to make your whole body feel heavier against the chair. The embers have gone from orange to something closer to rust. Every few minutes, one shifts in the grate, a soft collapse of ash, no more than a whisper. You've stopped feeding the fire. It doesn't need you anymore tonight, and there's a quiet kind of comfort in that. Something that can carry on without your help. Outside, the snow has almost stopped. Only a few flakes drift past the window now, unhurried, catching what little light spills from the room. You watch them for a while without really watching, the way your eyes rest on something when there's nowhere else they need to be. Your tea went cold an hour ago. You know this without checking, the way you know your own hands, folded now in your lap, warm still from the mug they held. There's no urge to reheat it. Some things are allowed to just end quietly, without needing to be fixed. The cabin creaks once, low in its frame, settling the way old wood does when the temperature drops outside and holds steady within. You've come to know this sound over the hours. It no longer startles you. It's just the house, breathing the way houses do. Your own breathing has slowed to match it, without you deciding to. In, and a small pause. Out, and a longer one. There's nothing left tonight that needs your attention. The doors are shut. The fire is tended enough. The snow is doing what snow does, falling somewhere far past the glass, and you are here, in the one warm room for miles, with nowhere left to be. Your eyelids feel weighted now, not heavy in a tired way, but full, the way a cup feels full right before it would spill. You let them rest a little longer each time they close. The armchair holds you the way it has all night, patient, unmoving, familiar already, though you only sat down in it once. Somewhere under the blanket, your feet have gone warm at last, tucked in past the wool's edge. That was the last small thing you were waiting on. Now that it's settled, there's nothing pulling at your attention at all. The room has gone almost silent, just the occasional soft tick of cooling wood, the faintest hush of wind brushing the eaves. You're not thinking in full sentences anymore. Just warmth, just weight, just the slow, dark pull of a night that has nowhere left to go but toward sleep. The fire has gone to embers now. Just a low, dim glow behind the glass, the color of something remembering itself. No more small flames reaching up, just heat settled deep into the logs, patient, unhurried. You are still on the couch, under the blanket, and the cabin has gone very quiet around you. Somewhere outside, the snow keeps falling, but you can't hear it anymore. Only feel the hush it leaves behind, pressed against the windows like a second blanket over the whole house. Your tea is long finished. The mug sits empty on the side table, and you don't reach for it again. There's nothing left to do with your hands but let them rest, one over the other, rising and falling with your own slow breathing. It's strange how a day can hold so much and end so simply. The drive up through the snow, the cold porch light, the fire catching, finally, after all that coaxing. And now this, nothing at all. Just warmth and weight and the particular silence of a house that has settled in for the night. The wind tries the window once more, half-hearted, and gives up. Even the cabin itself seems to exhale, the old beams ticking softly as they cool, the way a house does when it's decided the day is over. You notice, almost without meaning to, how heavy your eyelids have become, how the blanket has become less like something you're wearing and more like something you're part of. The line between you and the couch, you and the warmth, has gone soft at the edges. There's nowhere else this could be happening. Not the city, not tomorrow, not anywhere but here, in this one small room, with the embers dimming by the minute and the snow outside still choosing, quietly, to keep coming down. You think, distantly, that you should probably feel the cold creeping in as the fire fades. But you don't. The heat has soaked all the way through, into the blanket, into the couch cushions, into you. It will hold long after the flames are gone. It always does. This is the part of the night that doesn't ask anything of you. No task left half-finished, no fire left untended, no door left unlatched. Everything that needed doing has been done, quietly, by your own hands, over the course of one ordinary evening in the mountains. And maybe that's the whole shape of a night like this. Not some big, sweeping thing, just small warmths gathered one at a time, a fire, a blanket, a window full of snow, until they add up to something steady enough to rest inside. The embers will burn down slowly, long after you've stopped watching them. The snow will keep its own quiet count until morning. And you can let go of keeping track of any of it now. There's nothing left to finish tonight. Only this, the weight of the blanket, the last warmth of the fire, and the soft, unremarkable comfort of a day that ended exactly the way a day like this should. And that's where we leave it for tonight. Wherever you are, however heavy your eyes have gotten, there's nothing else you need to do right now. Just let it all go. Sleep well.